Welcome and thank you all for being here. My name is Andy Willett, as it says right there, board chair for the Vermont Foodbank, and certainly glad to have all of you here. One of the first things that I need to do is to thank our presenting sponsors, which are National Life and Hannaford Supermarkets. So great work, thank you. And even more important than that is to talk about who's here in the room. There are 300 participants this year, which is a great crowd, and that represents 49 agencies throughout the state. So thank you all for taking the time to be here. It is a day full of a great agenda. I've seen it, and I'm looking forward to it. For me, this is my 5th Hunger Conference. This is the 7th annual Hunger Conference, and each year they get better and better. With that, it gives me great pleasure to introduce our opening speaker, and that is Mayor Weinberger, Mayor of Burlington, Vermont. He's done his job and given us a beautiful sunny day today, and we certainly appreciate that. But Mayor Weinberger has been a long supporter of hunger issues, and he recently, last fall, put his family and himself to the test and took the SNAP challenge and lived for a week on the SNAP allocation, to really live, breathe, and understand the issue even more, and certainly highlight the cause that we're fighting for. So with that, it gives me great pleasure. Mayor Weinberger.
Thank you, Andy, and it's great to look out and see so many of you here. We're very proud to have you here from across the state with us in Burlington this morning for such an important event. Look through the program that you have, the day you have ahead of you, and it's really chock full of great speakers. 3 of them, people I know well that work here in this community that really have unique stories to tell and share, and as well as, an innovative format this year that's going to allow you all to get into the details and start working through some problems in a way that doesn't happen at all conferences. So it's exciting to be here with you, kicking off this event, particularly given the importance of the work you do right now. And the importance of that work was brought home. I was glad I had the opportunity to take the 4 Square Challenge and live for a week with my wife and daughter on, I think it amounted to like $3 a day of food for each of us, and it was eye-opening, and it was difficult. The amount of energy and time that it took to make it through the week was remarkable. The burden, particularly. I was particularly thankful my wife really dove into the details of it and mapped things out, and it was stressful, even knowing that this was an exercise for us. It really brought home viscerally the emotions and the challenges that so many people go through in our communities every day. And it is staggering how many go through it. The numbers I think that have been circulated for this conference are that there are 86,000 Vermonters in need of food assistance. For a state as small as we are, that's just a shocking number. I'm so thankful as the mayor of Burlington. I think Vermonters should be thankful in general that there are so many of you working to fight this problem. 280 food shelves open throughout the state, a great number of them here in this region. We're so fortunate to have so many committed sponsors like Hannaford's and the others you see up here that are willing to engage, put on this event and stay engaged in this problem throughout the year. And it's just another great example of Vermonters coming together to overcome our challenges. Welcome again. I hope you enjoy your day. We are fortunate the weekend weather initiative has extended into Tuesday this week, and I hope you have a great day and productive day, and keep at the important work that you do. Thank you.
Next this morning, we're going to be able to hear a few words and opening remarks from John Sales. He's the CEO of the Vermont Foodbank, and many of you know him. I've had the pleasure to work with John since he began with the food bank. I've been on the board from 2007 forward and the board chair for the last 3 years. So get a great opportunity to work very intimately with John and know that he is doing some great work personally and leading the 40 food bank staff members to do some phenomenal work. So with that, John?
Thank you, Andy, and good morning, everybody. Let's see if I can get that where I need it. Yeah, that was our staff, or the ones we could get together a few years ago, and the food bank's actually been growing since then. We don't really want to grow, but we seem to need to. And I think the way we're growing is a really positive thing, and we're going to learn a lot about looking at the positive side today. Because we're growing not just because the problem's getting bigger and we're doing the same thing in a bigger way, but we're growing to try and do things in different ways. Because after, what, between 20 and 30 years, the food bank's been in existence and the problem has not been going away. So we need to think about new ways to address the problem. Thank you, Andy, and thank you, Mayor Weinberger. We really appreciate your time, and we appreciate being here on this beautiful day. Unfortunately, we have to be in here, but I know we got to spend the weekend. We're all a little sore still, probably, from our weekend warrior activities. While I figure this out, let's see. I'm just going to let you know that the statistic that the mayor gave you of 86,000 Vermonters who need food assistance, if you add that number up and you look at the populations of our major cities, St. Albans, Burlington, St. Johnsbury, Brattleboro, and Rutland, and you combine together all the people that live in those cities, that's about 86,000 people. So imagine the combined populations of St. Albans, St. Johnsbury, Rutland, and Brattleboro not knowing where their next meal is coming from every single day. That's the situation we have in Vermont. And I know most of you are the choir here, and thank you for the work you do, because if you weren't here, those people, our neighbors, would not be getting the food they need to make sure that they know where their next meal is coming from. So I would like you all to give yourselves a big hand for the work that you do to start out the day. And I'd like to talk about why we're here today. So our focus this year is moving to action, achieving results. And we'll be spending the day talking about really the endless opportunities to make positive change. I've done this appreciative inquiry style event before, and it's inspiring, and it's one of those things, the more you do it, the more you get out of it. So just think of today as a beginning. You know, people notice explosive change all around us, but they often don't realize it's decades of work that have gone into making that happen. Has anyone here read The Tipping Point by Malcolm Gladwell? Got a few people. So the tipping point, a tipping point happens when society at large embraces a new idea or looks at something in a different way. And tipping points can be spontaneous. They can be like a fad. It can be a fashion. It can be a toy that all of a sudden gets really popular. That's when the tipping point happens. But sometimes, and actually more often, I believe there's a passionate investment of time and energy and money to push towards a tipping point. You know, the day Twinkies were introduced, they were not a national icon. I can guarantee you that. It really took some time before Twinkies became something that we had to save when they were going out of business. But I think probably more relevant to us, it took decades for the philosophies of Mahatma Gandhi to reach their own tipping point and become part of our culture and be embraced and repeated. So now, how many people were here last year when Steve Robbins was here? Probably more. Wasn't he amazing? He was great. And I actually watched that video again of his opening just to get re-energized about it. So one of his nuggets that really stuck with me was this concept that multiple mindless, redundant messages can make us believe something that isn't true, even when we know it isn't true. And he talked about our unconscious biases that get built up over the years, just by what we see and hear and experience. To say it another way, words really matter. And we need to be aware of how words and concepts get used and change over time and when we reach a tipping point. So one of the words I've been thinking about is poor. So many of us in this room don't use that word much to describe people. We like to use other words. We use low-income people. We use our neighbors, our friends. But how many times have we heard the work we do described as helping poor people? And I have to wonder, do we have any subconscious biases associated with the words poor people in society or even ourselves? I mean, we often use that word in the context of one definition, which is having little or no wealth and few or no possessions. But you know what? There's a lot of other common uses of the word poor, common definitions, like being inferior, lacking in value in different ways, lacking in quality, or being subject to pity or pitiable. And I wonder how those meanings might creep into our unconscious biases and actually be associated with the people that we're trying to help, the people who carry that label of poor. You know, the conversation of poverty in our society is age-old. But in the past 35 years or so, 35, 40 years, I've noticed, because I've been around and aware that amount of time, that there's been really an effort, I think, to change the conversation about the poor, about who they are and where they fit in our society, maybe to move toward a tipping point. So the poor can be shown as undeserving or as trying to manipulate the system. We're told that the dollars we spend on the poor are the most important things, the most important part of our public discussion. We're told that we need to stick to the dictionary definition of poor, you know, that little or no money and little or no possessions. And if people have so much stuff, can they really need help? I mean, if they have a refrigerator, an air conditioner, TVs, do people like that really need help? And if you get help from the government, you're dependent. And we all know what dependency leads to. Sloth, and it saps our initiative. And if you really think about it, you know, we're all going to hell in a handbasket, and it's all their fault. But what if we looked at things differently? And if you don't like what's being said, you can change the conversation. So says my favorite mythical character, Don Draper. Although recently Peggy stole that line. I don't know if you saw that episode. Don was not happy. So we'd like to start that process today of changing the conversation. And we're going to hear from some people that are going to teach us some techniques for changing the conversation. And we're also going to hear from 3 speakers who are going to teach us about living that change, about what they've done to change that conversation. Doug Davis will start us out. And Doug's going to show us how the Burlington schools are really leading the country in teaching our kids about nutrition and healthy, delicious foods by serving it in their cafeterias and by having the students join in the process. We're going to hear from Hal Colston, who's going to talk about the way we brought transportation to everybody through Good News Garage and building stronger communities through the Neighbor Keeper initiative. Tiffany Blumel will be here, is here, I hope. And she's been changing women's and girls' lives by breaking through barriers and changing the conversation about what women and girls do today. They're all going to tell us how to get it done. And when I leave here today, I want to hear you all starting to change the conversation. So I hope you enjoy what happens today. I'm really looking forward to it and looking forward to participating with some of you in what we're going to do.